It's always a pleasure speaking with you. You know, you are truly an institution. You are one of the most remarkable people to ever be in this business. We'll see you from time to time on The Social, I do believe, or one of those shows on CTV. You've been on CBC. You've been on City TV. Like you've been everywhere out there representing. How does it feel being able to create the structure that you have, but you've done it on your own and you've done it on your own terms?
Yeah, totally. I mean, first of all, kudos to you. I have to say, I am a student of, I stand on the shoulders of those that are around me that came before me. So you're a guy, right? I got to give you your flowers while you're here, Rudy. I mean, like, yeah, you're just that guy. Like, you've just been somebody. When people from my community, people that look like me, that are, racialized, black men, like, you've always been that guy that's kicked open doors and on radio, on commercial radio, on public radio too, and just been doing things. So yeah, so that's kind of what I take as my inspiration. It's people like yourself and others, Clifton Joseph, who was at CBC for many years, and Royce and James, Toronto. So just people that kind of that might be, yeah. So I take that's where I get my inspiration, right? It's just if I'm to be perfectly honest, people like you. I'm being honest.
I appreciate the love and respect back to you too. But the one thing I've never done is I've never written books, man. You have. How many have you put out? And one of your most popular one was about Drake.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, this new book about basketball is my seventh book. And it's funny, Rudy, because, my background is, I'm like, I consider myself like, a semi-retired journalist, although, I'm not that old, but when I was going to York back in the 90s, like I was working, like that's what paid my tuition. So I was writing for a Now magazine, which at the time was Canada's largest alternative weekly newspaper, had a large circulation in Toronto. And that's what paid my tuition. So when I say I'm not that old, I mean I'm not that young either. But I was writing and getting paid for my work when I was in university. Okay, back in the 90s. And what I would say is, when I studied at York University, back in the Stone Ages, like the 90s, I did this joint program with Centennial College called, Book and Magazine Publishing. So while I was getting my undergraduate honors degree, 4 years, took me 4.5 years to get that. I also did this publishing program. So when it comes to book publishing, magazine publishing, I know the nuts and bolts because I studied it. I have a 2-year diploma in publishing, right? So while some writers are struggling trying to get their first book out there and all that, like I understand the distribution, the manufacturing, the manuscripts, the copy editing, the whole thing because I studied it. Okay, that's why I've written 7 books because I understand the business of publishing.
But why this though? Let's get back into it. You already mentioned it. I'm gonna reverse back. What is the name of the new book and what is it about, please?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so the book is called 101 Fascinating Basketball Facts. And the book is actually part of a series put together by my publisher, this new publisher, Dundurn Press. And what they do is they gather together subject experts, subject area experts to sort of cull together, 101 fascinating phenomena tied to different subject matter, right? So, for example, if you're into hockey, like a lot of Canadians are, they have a book called 101 Fascinating Hockey Facts that was written by, people that are into hockey. They know Brian McFarlane, like he was on, he's a broadcaster on Hockey Night in Canada forever. So he put out a book about hockey. So me, I'm a basketball junkie. For those that know me, I was covering it way before the music thing. I played basketball at a high level in high school. So that's what the book is about. It's for basketball nerds, junkies, stans, super fans that want to unpack all the layers tied to right scoring, rebounding, getting steals. What's the size of the court? Like which we can get into it, right? Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, how do you go about choosing what you think is important for this book? Because even you could say 1,000, there's probably 10,000 or 100,000 subjects that could be put into this.
That's right. Yeah, it was a real great question. I mean, it was a real challenge, sort of pinning it down to 101 fascinating basketball facts because I could have quite easily put together a book, double the amount, 400 fascinating basketball facts, right? Now, the interesting thing, when we talk about like timing, one thing, Rudy, I've always I take pride in as far as timing, the zeitgeist, keeping my finger on the pulse of pop culture and humanity. And let's put it this way. Like I like to say that there's a reason why basketball is the second most popular sport in the world, right? Whether you're playing basketball, professionally, or you watch college basketball, pro basketball, the NBA, basketball. I said in the first chapter, it's like one of the best unscripted dramas in the world, right? Because when you watch basketball games, Rudy, like you just never know the outcomes of the games for the most part until like the last few minutes of the game, and it's just a sport where Rudy, I don't know if you watch, if you're into football, or which we call soccer in North America, or hockey, but it's a sport where the average total points scored per game, it's like over 200 points, right? So that's over like 100 points scored per team. Now, when you look at sports like soccer, a good soccer or football game, they call it in Europe, a good game is like 3-1. Like the game ended like a 2-1 game. Or hockey, a good game is like 4-2. Basketball is like 200 plus points are being scored, right? So it's just one of those sports that, if you're into just high intensity, high athleticism, high skill, it's for you. And it's a reason why it's the second most popular sport in the world. And it may at one point in time become the most popular sport in the world. I got to be honest.
Well, when all that stuff happened with the U.S. back in the day with the Olympics, I think that's where it really reached this peak with the super team and everything else. But let's go into this. What are some of the subjects that you look at?
Yeah, totally. What I tried to do is, for one, because I'm Canadian, born in Toronto, proud Canadian, go Canada, rah rah. I wanted to stick in there a lot of things, tied to our participation, our inclusion in the game. And I'll tell you why. When I used to take my son to well, first of all, I played for this school in Toronto. It's called Oakwood Collegiate. And
Stop right there. Stop right there. You need to explain for folks who don't understand how badass Oakwood was back in those days. Please explain.
Yeah, totally. I mean, Oakwood Collegiate, which is like in the northwest end of the city, it's one of the most storied basketball programs in all of Canada. Never mind Toronto, right? So when you went to Oakwood, that saying, "Ball is life," that slogan, "Ball was life." Okay, so if you look at the DNA of much of what's happening in basketball in Canada and its growth, you're going to see that many former Oakwood graduates like myself, you're going to see them everywhere, right? So when you look at, for example, let's look at the Toronto Raptors, for example, right? One of their assistant coaches is this guy, Jama Malalela. He went to Oakwood, okay? When you look at NBA, Nathaniel Mitchell, who now coaches one of the best teams in China, he was an assistant coach with the Charlotte Hornets, the Toronto Raptors, and the Milwaukee Bucks, right? If you attend the Raptors games, Rudy, right, you're going to see that, like the on-air announcer, Mark Strong, the guy who says, "Hey, welcome to the game," he went to Oakwood, all right? When you listen to the play-by-play guys, there's a guy, Paul Jones, he does play-by-play for the Raptors. He went to Oakwood, right? So Oakwood, so the DNA is everywhere in Canada basketball, if you're into basketball, right? So some of the best players that have ever played the game in our country just happen to have attended Oakwood. That's the facts, right? Yeah.
That is the fact. So let's go back again what we were saying earlier about what what are the subjects in the book, and you were talking about you're keeping as most, I wouldn't say most of it. There's a strong Canadian presence in this book.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I used to travel with my son. He was playing basketball at a high level. And I go to basketball tournaments in the States, right? Because that's where you get the most competitive tournaments, the AAU circuit, the Amateur Athletic Union. So I've been to many states down south and, Indiana, the Carolinas, North, South Carolina, pretty much everywhere, traveling with my son. And I'd run into like mostly American coaches, trainers, basketball players. And they would be like, when they see teams coming in from Toronto, they're just like, "Yeah, what are you guys doing here? Don't you guys just play hockey?" Like these cliches and stereotypes. And I'm like, dude, so I'd have to spend a lot of time essentially educating them. Like, for example, like, who do you think invented basketball, Rudy? It was a Canadian. You know what I mean, right? It was Dr. James Naismith. Like, we actually invented the game. So Americans kind of saying, what are you doing here playing basketball? I'm like, what are you talking about? When we talk about the history of the game, Rudy, like the first basketball, NBA basketball game that was ever played, where do you think it was played? It was played in Toronto in 1946. Okay, at what we call the Mattamy Center, formerly called Ryerson. Now it's called the Toronto. It's called Toronto Metropolitan University. So the first NBA pro basketball game was played in Toronto in the 1940s, right? The Toronto Huskies played the New York Knicks back then and lost. So there are all these things when people think about Canada and basketball that might be oil and water, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Here's another factoid. When we talk about the history of basketball, and this is I may be doing a bit of trivia here, but like, where do you think the oldest basketball court in the world resides? Right, Rudy? Do you think it's New York, LA, Chicago? No, it's in New Brunswick. Okay, the world's oldest surviving basketball court is located in New Brunswick. Okay, and it was built in the late 1800s. Okay, right. So there are all these fascinating factoids that your average layperson, sports fan or basketball fan in particular, they know nothing about. So I had to get them in the book.
As a basketball fan, what is it like for you to go out, research, discover this? You must get like a lightning bolt hit you every time you got this information.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the funny thing is, me writing this book about fascinating basketball facts is, basketball is, I say it's comparable to hip hop. It's something that sort of took off in America in inner city environments, but basketball has now grown up and left the hood. Okay, so when you look at the NBA, for example, right, which is the world's most popular and the best basketball league in the world, the last 7 MVPs in the NBA are not American. Okay, that's how much the game has grown around the world. Okay, so the best player playing the game right now, arguably, is from Toronto. Was born in Toronto, grew up in Hamilton, Ontario. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, right? And the last 7 MVPs, right, are not from America, right? It's Nikola Jokic, Serbian, right? Joel Embiid, continental African, and that Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? Nigerian, Milwaukee Bucks. So this is what's happening to the sport. Is it's blown up and it's essentially taking over the globe. And that's reflecting in the play in the NBA, which is the world's best league.
Where do we get the book, my friend?
Yeah, so the book can be found anywhere. I mean, go support your local mom and pop retailers. Okay, I want you to do that first. If you can't find it there, you can order it online. Barnes and Noble, Amazon, pretty much everywhere at every bookseller on and offline. But go check out the mom and pops. I like to support small business, bricks and mortar. That's the older school in me, but if you can do it that way.
Last question. Any chance there'll be a part 2 to this, or are you thinking about another style book to put together?
Yes, I am. Yeah, the next book will heavily involve basketball, but mum's the word. I'll keep it hush hush, and we'll circle back. Perhaps the end of 2026 with some with some exciting news. Hopefully, okay. We're working on some things here, Rudy.
Just in time for the holiday season and Christmas gifts. My brother, thank you so much for this interview. Always love and respect, and so happy you were able to put this together for your passion. Congratulations.
Hey, thanks for having me, Rudy, and keep doing your thing, man. Because again, I'm here to give you your flowers because you're just you're like a broadcast legend in this country, and that's not debatable or arguable, open to debate. So keep doing your thing.
Love it.